Alright, got called for a rekey on a house where the mother has just passed away. During these circumstances, it's always best to change the locks on the house. If you're the power of attorney, executor of the will, you most certainly would need to rekey the locks on the house so that any other people, such as caregivers or etc., family members, aren't allowed to go through the house and I guess cherry pick and take stuff that may be something that everybody would want out of the house, or try to disobey the will in some way, form, or fashion. So as the executor of the will, you're allowed to rekey the house to new keys to restrict people coming and going. This particular call is off of Bailey Drive in Central West Jackson. And my mount is kind of flip-flopping all over the place here. Sorry about that. Unfortunately, this is one of the, I guess one could say, deprived areas of town where all caution is necessary. And especially given the fact that it is in an instance where one person family members could show up and cause problems. Hopefully that's not the case, but this person is just taking up the middle of the street. Thanks, good job. Alright, so we're just ahead. For the privacy of the customer, I'm gonna stop it right here, and also I need my phone to do other things here, so I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so that was just a one-door rekey. We're leaving the area. You know, these areas I drive, like I was here yesterday, just a few blocks over, and a lot of you can tell this is inner city. And you often see about, you know, shootings on so-and-so street. I know there's been shootings on this street. But as a whole, typically what the problem is here is you have people who grew up in these houses for years and years. You know, their grandparents live there, their grandparents pass away, passing on their parents, and then so forth and so on. And you could have generations of families that grow up in these houses, and they're good people for the most part. They're all good people. You get older people on a street and houses that are turned over and flipped and then used for rental purposes. Not saying rental properties are bad. I used to rent. But they bring in different elements, and unfortunately sometimes those elements are criminal elements. And a once quiet street that gets turned over for foreclosure, and it goes up on the bank, and somebody rents it out, you know, out-of-state person rents it out to anybody, and the next thing you know, the house turns into a drug house or an activities house with younger people. And while those certain younger people that may have actually rented the house aren't bad people, they have friends who may have less than honorable intentions, and just by the mere fact of spending time in that area, houses end up getting broken into. Now, all of that sounds like a huge generalization. It's not. I've seen it time and time again. I've been on the streets of houses for customers who literally have, like I just said, grew up in that house, and now they're scared to leave on a Sunday morning to go to church because they're worried that their house is going to get broken into. Not out of some disillusion, but because it has happened to them multiple times before. And they can literally point out the problems, yet nothing can be done about it unless something major happens at that house and everybody gets arrested and the landlord finds out and kicks them out. So forth and so on. So yes, you do hear nightly in Jackson. We're up to like 65 murders. Looks like we're going to end the year at about 70 shooting murders. And all too often, unfortunately, they are on streets like that. Streets that were once quiet, streets that raised generations of families, streets where kids run up and down the street with basketballs just trying to be kids. And there's a criminal element in the neighborhood, and they latch onto these kids while they're out playing, and they teach them to do the scams, and unfortunately it leads to lives of crime. And there's been a huge long series of articles both with the Youth Media Project and JFP about street issues, and they're always doing reports on areas talking about being in a life of crime, and even the mayor has talked about where he was raised same way, and he watched drug deals go down all the time and blah blah blah. So urban blight is a huge problem. The criminal activity is a huge problem. The justice system is the problem. Mississippi justice system obviously is crooked as shit. You can tell that by the head of the prison system getting indicted for robbery and not extortion, but all sorts of other crap. And there's politicians getting hit left and right for trying to feed their best interest and paying off people to gain contracts. Meanwhile, you've got prisoner, school to prison pipeline, and you've got cases where kids that may have been good kids growing up but are unfortunately in an area that now is in decay, and really the only way they have to do anything involves criminal elements. Again, I go into these neighborhoods almost daily. Over the years, I honestly, I don't like doing it, but these people deserve the service that anybody else would get, even though they're in an area where you are very uncomfortable. It's a shame, because again, a lot of those older people are in these houses. They've grown up, they're good people, and literally I've had many of them say, they're too scared to leave their house. They've been broken into time and time again. They'll wave down the street at a house where there's a congregation of 15 or 20 high school age teenagers hanging out at 11 o'clock in the morning during school year hours. And it's understandable. These people would love to be back in a safe area, just like somebody who can afford to dump a house and buy a new house somewhere else. But these people were unable to do so. The houses that long ago sold for you know, 70 to 100,000. Now you can't sell them for 20,000, if that. And it's a shame that it's like that, because most of the people on those streets, they're good people, and they don't want to be broken into just like anybody else wants to be broken into, but they are kind of stuck in the position they're in. And you know, crime's never going to go away. There's always going to be criminals out, but all we can do as neighbors of each other is just watch out for each other's back. There was an instance yesterday where neighbors caught somebody breaking into somebody's house and called the owner, and the owner came out and actually was able to apprehend them himself. While extremely dangerous, that unfortunately sometimes is the only thing that can be done. You never know what's going to happen. Those two that were caught, which were going to be charged with felonies for breaking and entering or robbery, and no telling what else, but they're going to be out in 3 years. And when they go into the Mississippi prison system, they're not rehabilitated. They are taught to be better criminals. They are taught to be hardened criminals. So when they get out, invariably, their crimes go from misdemeanor crimes to more serious felonies, such as armed carjacking, armed robberies. And it's a shame that, you know, while there are probably innocent people in jail, the guilty ones that are in jail for certain things are back out after 3 years. You can see that by that recent couple that robbed some store in Pascagoula, came up to Jackson and shot 3 older gentlemen that ran a pawn shop in kind of a rough part of town. And that's 3, you know, they were all over 60 years old, so that, you know, they've got extended families. So that affected, right before Christmas, that affected easily 30 people, relatives, friends of the people. And, you know, they ended up getting caught in Kansas. But his rap sheet, the dude that did it, he had a girl with him, but the dude that probably pulled the trigger had a rap sheet going back to 2000. And like every 3 years, his crimes escalated, and it got worse and worse, and went from robbery to armed robbery to blah blah blah, and now he's facing 3 capital murder charges for absolutely nothing. There was no reason for him to have to shoot those elderly men, who I did not know, but I know many business owners, and it's a shame that business owners in Jackson have to hear from their employees that they're scared to come to work. They're scared to go home because of where they live. It's, you know, people scoff about the whole safe place, you know, theories and all that, but you know, you're just an asshole if you're gonna say that somebody doesn't deserve to have a safe place. You probably have your own little safe place, whether it be your armored fortress where you can fondle your multiple guns and count your ammunition and stack it up. But other people may not have safe places like that. The only safe place they have is in their home, locked behind doors, where on streets where random gunfire can penetrate the walls of a house and kill somebody, and it happens often, way more often than it should. And you know, you also have the people that blame the gun society and all that, and impose harsher sentences. I'm all for gun control. This is a whole different topic. I personally am a carrying person, and you know, unfortunately, until a larger majority of people, like that homeowner yesterday that apprehended the criminals, do what they can safely do to stop crime, you know, the people that argue that there's crime but there's a perceived perception of crime, there's crime. There's bad crime. There's always bad crime. It's gone on since Adam and Eve. So it's just you say it gets worse. It's actually pretty much the same. There have been worse years in Jackson as far as strictly like death by shootings. This year's not great. Even one's not good, but there's more people that know about it now than there was 10 years ago because of obviously Facebook, smartphones, Nextdoor, community websites, Facebook groups. So obviously there's a lot more people that know about the actual crimes that are being committed. And even then, that is only a small portion of what is actually going on. And I say that not to scare you. Crime is an extremely unpopular topic. Trust me, I know. I gauge my statistics on discussions and videos like this. And, again, Grumpy Cat gets 1 million views. But somebody trying to tell you to please be careful, to please lock your doors, please turn your alarms on. Motion lights, video doorbells, they're only like a couple $100. Video camera systems, anything you can do to add more security to your house is pretty much imperative nowadays. We don't have the option that we used to of leaving our doors unlocked and just going away, or leaving our cars open, or leaving the keys in the car. You cannot do that. You cannot leave your purse in your car. You cannot leave your backpack in a car. You cannot leave your car running at a store. You can't even get out of your car to get gas without making sure the doors are locked so that somebody doesn't sneak up beside you and grab your purse off your front seat. That is the common current thing, purse snatching at gas stations while you're occupied filling up the car. So, long story short, which this has been way much longer, I kind of went off on a rant here, but long story short is just watch out for your neighbors, watch your own back. If you notice absolutely anything suspicious, call 960-601-960-1234. That's JPD Communications. You can request an officer come patrol your area. They will, we have a rough police force as far as resources. We could easily use double the number of officers we have, but we simply can't afford that. So they'll try their best to get an officer there as soon as possible to check out an area. If there is an emergency, or if you notice some legit emergency type activity, you kind of have to make a call. Communications will get the message through to 911 if they deem it an emergency. If you're not sure whether it's an emergency or not, like if it's just a suspicious guy, call the 1234 number. Communications will get it right over to JPD and send it right out. If obviously there's been a shooting, or if you hear gunfire close to your house, then call 911 and report the activity so that they can get an officer out. You may not see an officer immediately unless you request the officer, but they do send units into that area as soon as they can. So everything you can do as a human being nowadays is important to help other fellow human beings. And sorry again, this took so long. I didn't mean to go off on this whole tangent. I've done a couple of videos like this before where I basically yelled at y'all to please be careful and please use common sense and the best judgment that you can when you leave stuff in your car, and etc. So y'all just be careful. The holiday season's over. Criminals don't take breaks. They may take a few days break. There hadn't been any major things go on the past couple of days except for a couple of shootings or robberies, but I just want everybody to be careful out there, and if there's an issue that we can help with, the number's right there on the screen, and we'll be glad to help you as best we can. We would prefer that you call us to, beef up your doors or install better quality deadbolts, and try to advise you on any other security issues you may have prior to an incident taking place. We do respond to both. I'd much prefer it to be before something happened so that it could possibly keep something from happening, rather than you call after something happens and are having to deal with the fallback from that. So if we can help you, SE Lock and Key, 601-362-0541, right by the shoe shop. My camera won't go that way. And Wells Cleaners and Fondren. So again, y'all have a good day. Be safe. Be watchful of everybody and everything. And I hope y'all have a great, safe New Year's.